Welcome back to the 611 podcast. It's your boy, Jimmy Rollins, my main man, Ryan Howard. And today we have a special guest. And I say special because she's my homie. She's my colleague. She's put in the work, one of the hardest working women in the business. If you guys know her schedule, it'll drive you crazy because it drives me crazy. She's the host of MLB Central for over a decade, 12 years, but over a decade. She hosts MLB, the closer and the opener. She's done so many things, an accomplished woman, my good friend, Lauren Shehadi.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. We're glad you can make time because I know how
I
busy
need a life, Jimmy.
Lauren, you have a life. Your life is doing what you love.
That's so
And
true.
it's obviously living on airplanes, flying back and forth from Atlanta to New York, or wherever you're going to correspond for college basketball, March Madness, which is something, 2 years in, 3 years in?
Yeah, 3 years in now.
Newer. Obviously, you've been a correspondent for the Olympics. You've just done so much. You've accomplished so much in your career. But let's take it back to the beginning, if you would. We get to share stories, walking down the hallways. And your father offered you a job. I don't know, was this out of college, out of high school? What was the deal behind that? Can you walk us through what it was like, the start of you getting into, I guess you're in show business now, but television?
Yeah, I went to the University of Florida. My first interview, I interviewed Steve Spurrier, and I remember stumbling through a question in an interview, and I thought, oh my gosh, at the end of it, I want to do this forever. So when I graduated, I could either go be an overnight editor and do the lotto numbers and the birthdays in Sarasota, Florida, like work from midnight to 8 a.m. for $10,000 a year. Or go, my dad said, come work for me. I'll pay 50 grand. You know, my dad was a property manager. And I said, no, I got dreams, Dad. And he said, you can't live off that. And I thought, I'm going. So 2 years, I would go to work at 12. I would get off at 8 a.m. And then I would go at 8 a.m. with the sports director. And I would shoot everything he shot for the day. And I made a VHS tape, 100 of them, sent him out. And I got one call back. It was Minot, North Dakota, $9,000 a year. You want to be our weekend sports anchor?
Dream job. $9,000 a year dream job.
I remember I used to fill up my gas tank, and I think about this often, $3 at a time. I was in North Dakota. It was negative 40 degrees, alone. I had to plug in my car at night because there's like these space heaters. Your car wouldn't start. Carry my camera into Saskatchewan, Canada, shoot JV ice hockey, drive back, edit, and really couldn't pay for the food. But I thought, I've got this crazy dream, and I'm so glad I did.
So to that, like, what was the initial, when you were like, hey, this is what I want to do? What was the end goal that you either kind of saw yourself going through? Because to me, this is kind of that realm of where it was like, getting drafted in a sense, right?
Right.
And starting off in the minor leagues.
On the buses.
Right. On
In
the
the
buses. Right.
In the jungle. I mean, they're surviving.
Right. In towns that
Surviving.
you're like, I never would have thought I would ever wind up in this city.
Go to the same restaurant.
The same spots, doing all of that. So kind of what was your end goal when you first got that call saying, hey, here's this opportunity?
Did you feel like in the minor leagues, I guess my question is, that you were going to make it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
felt like that?
Yeah, just a matter of time.
You
Just
knew,
putting in
yeah.
the work.
You had that, and I don't think I had that. I was just trying, because in our job and in your job, it's a little bit of luck,
Yes.
But my end goal was to be a baseball reporter. Always. I used to watch Marnie Gellner for the Twins and think, I just want to be here. I'd watch Leslie Visser, the only female in the Football Hall of Fame, and think, I want to be her. I want to be in those moments on the field. What a sweet escape in life. And I never thought I would get there. I just thought, put your head down and treat people kindly, do the work, and maybe someone will notice. I don't know.
And now look at you.
Oh my gosh. You know what's funny?
I mean, working 5 jobs. I work 5 jobs.
I walk in our studios at TBS, and you've been there. They're large and grand, and there's 20 cameramen and women who are the top of their craft and graphics and edit. And I'm thinking, I used to carry my camera, white balance, myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, how the heck did I get here? And I'm just really, it's not lost on me. I really think about it weekly that I've.
Well, you can hear it. You can hear the passion in your voice.
Like
you're like,
even going back to that $9,000 or $10,000 a year job, like it was the passion and for people that have that and you find it young, it's hard to explain, but it's something that you can feel when you're with the person and they tell you their journey. I understand it. Yeah. And for me, I smile because I'm like, I know what it feels like. You don't know how it's going to happen. You just know where you want to go. And it doesn't matter how small that step is, you're going to take it. Like if it leads me down this path, that's okay because it's ultimately going to get me there and you enjoy the journey. We call it the jungle because yes, you're in the jungle and you're just chopping down bushes and it's like, I don't know where I am, but I'm here. This is my job. Let me get through this.
Sometimes that compass isn't working right.
Hey, it isn't working.
Yeah.
But it got you to where you needed to go.
No, absolutely.
So Lauren, let's go back to your youth. In sports. Softball, basketball, soccer.
Basketball and softball. Terrible at basketball. My coach used to yell, Shehadi, don't shoot. It's so funny. But I would defend the other team's best player. And I just tried. I feel like that's kind of been the theme in my life. Like I was never supremely talented at anything. I look at Jimmy, honest. We do the show together. I have notes. There's notes on notes on notes on notes. This guy strolls up. He's writing one note and he's fantastic. Supremely talented.
That's how he used to show up to the field too.
At what time?
Yeah. See, there you
go.
2
minutes ready to go.
Time out.
2 minutes before.
Lauren, we're here for you. We're here for you, Lauren. We're here for you. We're here for you, Lauren. No, but I appreciate it. But
I just was never good like that. So I had to put in the work for everything, Like I'm, if you just said go on a show and host a 1 hour show, I'd fall on my face. And I talk to ball players all the time. And there's the Freddie Freemans of the world who are just so talented, and he puts in so much work, but are so talented that they almost couldn't fail. And I was kind of the complete opposite. I just had to try the hardest. I always thought if you outwork the room, maybe, just maybe, you know what I mean?
You said, she only brought up basketball. Don't think it isn't lost upon us about softball.
Ryan Howard, I'm a first baseman.
Okay,
Get to know me.
Number
5.
Let me step out the way then. Let me step out the way.
Speak on it.
Let me tell you about me playing first base, Ryan.
Speak on it.
I could play, but my dad would pay. He said, "I'll pay $100 if you hit a ball to right field." I never, not once, not one time.
Right-handed hitter.
Right-handed hitter.
Okay.
Straight pull, like down the line, foul every single time. Played softball. We won the state championship when I was young. Loved it. And when I stopped, I thought, this is a void. I got to fill this, whatever this is. You guys know what it is, right? It's that. And that's broadcasting gives me that. When you're at the bank and it's a million people just.
Yes.
She loves the bank, by the way. That atmosphere is amazing.
Yes.
And they're all shouting and you're on the field. There's nothing like it. We almost feel like we're you guys, and we're definitely not. Thank goodness we're not. But yeah, there's that, you get that fill in that regard. I love it. If you could bottle that up, right?
Lauren, we had it bottled up for 5 years and then it was boom, it was gone.
Oh yeah.
Just the way it came in. Lauren, you have to have some amazing baseball stories, whether that you covered, witnessed yourself, that you get to speak about because of your position. You get to share and bring this, to the world. But via text, convincing you to come on the show because you're very private. For those who do not know of Lauren Shehadi, she is one of the most private people I know, and I love that about her because she makes you dig, and it's like you have to earn her friendship. And I think I'm at the point where I've earned her friendship, so thank you. But you have a very, very special story about how you really fell in love with the game. growing up in a DMV area, although you claim that you're a Nats fan now.
Okay, can I just
You know what? You can do
Clarify,
whatever
yes,
you want.
yes,
Okay, let me
please.
You can do whatever you
clarify.
want.
Clarify.
Ryan, it's not
Clarify
like
for
the
the
Mets and
record.
the Yankees. You're not either or in
Right.
the DMV. We didn't have the Nationals, so we
Right.
had the Orioles. I'm
Right.
from DC,
Correct.
Okay.
but we only had the Orioles in Baltimore. Baltimore's an hour away, so we cheered for the hometown team. But when we got the Nationals, that's my town.
For sure.
So it's a little bit different. I think you could speak for 80% of people in the DMV. If the Orioles or the Nationals are in the postseason, we're cheering
You're
for
good.
them.
Right.
Yeah. But I remember I was 12 years old. It was against the Angels. My dad got a ticket to watch Cal Ripken Jr. break Lou Gehrig's consecutive games played streak. And I'll never forget it. It was a 20-minute standing ovation. First of all, you had to you knew that he was going to break the streak.
Right.
But there's rainouts.
Right.
So
Ooh,
some
good
people
point.
got tickets
Yeah.
5 days
Right.
span. And these were pricey. And it was a who's who in attendance. It was dignitaries and it was musicians and actors. And here was a seemingly larger than life star in a blue collar work ethic. Imagine doing anything for 16 years, not taking a single day off. It will never be broken, never in a million years. It won't come close. It won't go half. It won't go 4 years. It won't.
It's not happening.
Right.
That's
You
forever.
can think about that.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, this man is different. And I want to be around this game forever. And that was my childhood in the game. I was a Skins fan, and then I was a Orioles fan, and I just remember it. I just remember it like it was yesterday, thinking I want to be around this forever.
Well, it's a good thing you were a Orioles fan and probably not so much the Skins. They weren't.
They were good
They
at
weren't-
one point.
At one point.
At one point.
That's
At one point.
dang, you're
Yeah.
taking shots.
By the way, Jimmy and I were supposed to go to the Eagles Skins game Commanders game this year.
I know, and I know.
Guess who stood me up?
Well,
Oh man.
well, Lauren. When the kids have something for dance, that's always going to take precedent. But I'll run it back. But I did get you into the suite for the World Series.
Yeah.
Although I know you love being with the people.
Yeah.
You love
Ryan.
being with the people.
I brought a friend. She's British. She was the only person at Citizens Bank Park who had no idea who he was. The only person, he loved it. He hung out with her. She goes, "Are you a baseballer?" He's like, "Oh my
Oh,
gosh."
I love it. I love
He
it.
loved every second
You're
of
like,
it.
we're gonna get along, Joe.
Hey,
It's fine.
we're
Hey,
good.
right here.
I don't
let
have
me
to answer
know.
any baseball questions. Who was the toughest pitcher you faced?
No.
What was the favorite stadium you liked to play in? Like, nope. It was just like, well, what's going on?
She said,
How
"What's
are
your
you?"
name?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, hang out here."
Right. You could have said whatever.
Okay,
Just-
you know what?
Oh, she wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Bond, James Bond. But Lauren wasn't gonna let me get away with this. She's gonna look at me like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I'm gonna tell her who you are.
Right.
At some point. I
Right.
mean, like it's a big old banner right there with their face on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't let us get
That's
away
where
with
he's
much.
like, hey, that's my cousin or my twin
Yes.
brother.
You've done that
Yeah,
That's
before.
my twin.
Yeah, well,
That's
we
my twin.
have.
That's
It's
it.
kind of like when you went from my bodyguard to the MVP.
Yeah.
And National
That was a
League.
fun story.
Yeah.
He tell you about that story?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna let you tell it because it was
So
it's better coming
it was,
from your
what was
POV.
It was 04? 05?
05.
05.
05.
So 05, I got the call up. We would go to this spot at the bank. It was called
McFadden's.
It was
McFadden's.
McFadden's. So like kind of like a little bar restaurant that was attached to the stadium. So Jimmy and I go after the game. We're at the bar. He's sitting down at the bar. I'm kind of standing up next to him.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl comes up to him. She's like, "Oh my gosh, like, hey, Jimmy Rollins." And she's like, "It's so good." And then she stops and she looks up and she looks at me and she's like, "Oh my God, are you his security?" And I was like,
Nope.
we just looked at each other and
Nope.
just
What did you
started
say?
busting out laughing.
You
I was
we
Yeah.
just
like-
laughed.
We just started
we
laughing because I was like,
It's like
clearly you haven't made it yet.
right. You
Clearly
have
hadn't made it yet. I was that guy. I was like, I guess.
He
I guess
was
so.
on the way. He
I
was
guess so.
on the way. So
I guess so.
I mean, he'll never live that down
No.
because he goes out, wins Rookie of the Year, then the next season wins the MVP. So going back to that moment where he wasn't Ryan Howard, he was possibly
I was
Jimmy Security. And I didn't even roll like that. We're
Right.
at the
Right.
ballpark. We just went
Right.
upstairs
Right.
to go hang out. But
I needed
that
an
was that's what you
should've got-
needed.
I needed an earpiece.
Needed the
That's what it
earpiece. That
was.
that would have
what
been
it was.
official. That would have been official. So, Lauren,
Tell me.
your job is not easy on our set, at least. You have Pedro, myself, Curtis. On Central, you got probably one of the most charismatic people I know, and D-Row. How is it dealing with such characters? So much personality. we like to get our points across. You still have to guide the show to make sure we get down that road. And what have you found being key to bringing the best out of us as analysts, but still keeping the show balanced and fair?
Yeah, I feel like at the center of it all, it's entertainment. And I think we often lose sight of that, right? People turn on the television to watch a game or to watch a show to be entertained.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes we lose that because we're trying to be correct and fair and honest and all instead of just having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the magic lies. We're trying to capture that. I always feel like I can set you up in a way, two ways. One way I'm going to get a straight answer, and the other way I'm going to get Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. I ask you, you know, as a leadoff hitter, what were you trying to do? Or I ask you, as a leadoff hitter, were you worried about setting up the guy hitting second?
Hell no.
And he said, hell no.
Nope.
And it's all animated.
Right.
And I knew the answer.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the answer.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see the difference in the answer?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what you're trying to get. It doesn't always work out like that. I know your personality. I know all of our guys' personalities, but I think that if you ask a question in a certain way, eliciting the response that you want is kind of what we're all trying to get to.
That's. I didn't even know I was being tricked.
Yeah,
You're being tricked.
I
sure you're
I
being
didn't even know I was
tricked.
being manipulated.
Yeah, she did.
Because
got you.
she would definitely.
The best manipulators you never know, Jimmy.
I know that. That's.
You got Miyagi,
But
bro.
you know what though?
She Miyagi'd you, bro.
Hey, you know what though? I know now.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're in trouble, Lola. You're in trouble, Lolo. It's on and popping, but that is something special because I mean, just look at the seat that you're in now.
Mm-hmm.
That was hosted by and Hall of Famer,
The GOAT.
the GOAT.
Ernie. And what he does so
DJ.
well, and I think, we're different. Obviously, Ernie's the greatest, but he realizes the show is not about him.
Mm-hmm.
And the sooner you realize that, the faster you get to where you want to go. If I'm never going to talk about pitching to Pedro Martinez. I'm just going to, nobody wants to hear me talk.
Well, we've
about
seen
that.
you throw too on top of that, but yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Nobody wants to hear me talk about turning a double play.
Mm.
They don't. They want the question so that you are set up. And I think that's where the greatest hosts have very little ego, if that makes sense. And that's what we're all trying to get to. It's easier said than done sometimes because you do have traffic. You got to weave and you have to get to your point. And you also want to make sure you say something.
Right.
But you guys are the stars,
And what's the biggest thing, I guess, your
Thank you,
biggest
Lord.
takeaway?
That's dope.
I mean, it is.
Let me breathe that in.
Well,
let me
that's
breathe that
where-
in
yeah,
because
Let me say it again. You're the
Yeah.
star.
no, not that part. No. Just the magic because it's dope.
Yeah.
It's like how does that happen? We're getting up there. She's asking us questions, and we see when they have pages full of stuff. I don't even know if they get to half of it,
Right.
but they have pages full of things. And I've always you're on the desk and you see it through a question here, through a question there, question here. Then you're waiting for you. Sometimes you're like, call on me, and
Yeah.
and she makes sure she looks past you or a good host to make sure it's pointed to that person. Like I see you. I'm going to give you your floor, but this is where I'm directing. They're the director without you even knowing.
Right. Yeah. Conducting the whole symphony,
Right.
if you will.
But the best teammates aren't going to let you fail. Like if I'm
Right.
asking about Aaron Judge, power at the plate, I'm going to say, what made you get in your most powerful position? Instead of, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It doesn't always have to correspond to the exact team. I'm relating to you because you're such an accomplished star. I want to know how you got there.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of our show is not even tailored to the teams. It's the ideas of the teams tailored to your careers because they want to hear you guys talk.
Interesting. I like that. Well, since you bring up
Tell me.
Aaron Judge,
Ooh.
we've had
insane.
we had a nice debate.
She doesn't like this stuff. I love it. She has an answer.
We had
You
a
have to
nice
answer this time.
debate.
Yeah,
we had a nice debate about this, right?
Yes.
Where we compared Aaron Judge and Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds. Mm-hmm.
Today we have Shohei and Barry Bonds. So in looking to that, there's been a lot of comparisons where I think people are kind of
Like
trying
who's
to,
the best
trying to drop it
player?
out, like who's the best
Not just
player.
say the best player.
The best player
Comparing
was
Barry.
that Barry or Shohei,
I
in
mean,
your opinion?
First of all, when we were comparing Judge and Barry, you said there's different, right? They're different. Yeah. Shohei is a completely different story. I mean, he made $700 million contract. He's probably paid back. The Dodgers have probably earned $400 million off of that already, just in global and ticket sales.
They're probably already in the black. They're probably already in the black.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He is playing Little League. He's playing Little League. The best player in Little League did what he's doing, and he hasn't even been oh, by the way, he's an ace of his staff when he comes back, and they're like slow playing it because they don't really need him till October, although their depth is tested. He's on a different planet. I don't think you can compare him to anybody. I mean, think about it. You guys were trying to get Knox in the show all the time, hitting whatever average. Did you guys care about average a lot?
Yeah,
because
we did.
They don't
as much.
They don't as much. Trying to hit for average, trying to hit home runs. He's lean. He's got, I mean, he's not going to steal 60 bases if he's an ace of a team. And then, oh, by the way, here's what I wonder about Shohei. Can you do that for a sustained period of time? We've seen it for about a year and a half. Can you do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you be an ace and can you hit 50 and steal 50?
No.
I just think it's too much, but I think he's a phenom.
But those are all great points.
Very good.
Are you going to make that?
Huh?
I don't know.
No, it's not a right or wrong. We want to hear from you because you always ask us to make these impossible
I like to
comparisons.
Make you uncomfortable.
I know that. So, yes, Shohei does those things. You know, he's pitching. And when he's pitching and being a DH, he's dynamic, but not like we saw last year. We've never seen Shohei play defense. He can only change the game one way.
Okay.
That's offensively. Unless he's pitching. Unless he's pitching. And that is once every 6 days. I think they had like a rotation where they had that type of situation where Barry is going out there every single day on both sides of the ball.
Okay.
How much credit are we giving to, I guess technically when he's pitching, he's DHing at the same time, but he isn't as dynamic. There's something that's lost where Barry never had to make that decision. How do we compare, when especially young Barry, when he was out there sliding, making throws, and still doing what he was doing every single day? Basically, out of a 162, you're getting Barry for like 154 at his best.
Right, help me out.
Because Shohei's on the mound, you're not getting him as much at his best, but we saw last year at his best.
Yeah, at his best.
What he can do.
Yeah.
So anyhow, all that is just looking at it full circle and not knocking Shohei because he's the best player in the game right now. If you ask me,
for sure.
Every time I've seen him play in person, hit a home run. That's all I went there to go see him do.
Oh yeah.
I just want to see a Shohei bomb.
Oh yeah.
And he did it. But this is comparing to, during my time.
Well, when you're throwing out the term, the greatest, like there's an embodiment of work that has to be put in.
Fear.
You mentioned it, right? Where if he's pitching, he's probably not stealing 50, 60 bases, right? Hell, he probably not even stealing in the game that he's pitching.
Yeah.
He may get 20 to 30 stolen bases. Like if he's pitching over the course of a season. And you know what he can do with the bat in his hand. So it's tough because we are talking about both sides of the ball, every single aspect. Like you say, Barry's getting out there offensively, defensively. He can steal bases, do the whole nine. Can Shohei do it? But yes. But he's going to have to temper it back because if he can't go out and throw strikes, now defensively he's not as effective.
Yeah.
So
one more thing to think about. They still pitch to Shohei. Barry was getting one pitch at times a game to do what he did.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not swinging and missing. He's getting walk intention with the bases loaded. They haven't.
He'd get one pitch a
series, and it hits the McDonald's sign in right field. So that's when I think of greatness. Not trying to convince you. I just want to ask, like,
me.
When we think of greatness, it's all of those things. Like this man, they were taking the bat out of his hands, and he still did that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sway you any bit in your decision? I think it's a great comparison because Shohei is the best right now.
Yeah,
but Barry, I think it was just
C,
pure.
all of the above.
All,
We
all
can-
of the
we can
above.
we could throw out a C.
You know what? Safe answer, Lauren.
Right.
Safe answer. I'll let you get away
We
with
were
that.
we were all looking for that C, all the above, or D, all the above.
She doesn't give us C.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Yeah,
give us
they're all good.
C on the show.
They all work.
So, Lauren, and to this sportscasting thing, who was there? Anyone? Obviously, you stated earlier, but anyone that you still look across the continent to and like, that's where I want to go in my career.
Oh, that's interesting. You know, everyone always asks me like, what do you want to do next? And I feel that's a really, I always say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. I feel like in this business, we're always trying to get to the next. When I get here, I'll be happier. When I get here, I'll feel more accomplished. And Steven Tyler said it, life's a journey, not a destination, right? If you're always trying to get to the next step, you're not going to be happy where your feet are. And it's a cautionary tale, especially with sportscasters, because there's always the next best opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy. And if you were to talk to like my agent, or I don't call him, because I'm so grateful. I want to be in the here and now and enjoy this and soak this up. Because this is your life, right? It's going to pass you by. And then you're going to say, did I enjoy the steps? Because I got where I wanted to go, but like, did I enjoy any? I mean, think about it. You think about every time you went to the clubhouse, did you enjoy it? Because it's going to be over someday, right? You know, you have to. So no, I don't think of what's next, but I do think of there's girls out there or women out there who have kind of, I like to emulate. I mean, I remember used to watch, I don't know if you knew her, Robin Meade's CNN Headline News. Do you know who that was?
Yes,
yeah.
of course.
You guys, she had it. Whatever it is, can't quantify it, don't know what it is. It was this warmth. I gravitate towards warmth. Anybody warm, I gravitate towards, especially on television. I turn it on. I want to watch someone who I feel is authentically themselves and kind. And she used to say, like, you didn't know if she was on TV or not, or if she knew she was on TV. She'd be like, good morning. I woke up late. Good morning. And I'm like, does she know the camera's on?
Right.
I loved it. I loved it. And that's kind of how I've tried to, you want to be yourself, but that authentic, just warm personality. That's what I wanted to try and be,
Well, now you are that too, I'm sure.
With our show,
A
it's
lot
hard
of
because
little girls out there.
You think so?
Oh, most
think so.
definitely. Most
Gosh, don't make
definitely.
me cry. 'cause
Did
I-
they?
Most
Did,
definitely.
they didn't know that you were watching them. I'm sure they wanted to do great at their job just in case.
Yeah.
And people that watch the show, they get that from you. And I don't know if you want to accept that. I know you're very humble, and no shine on me, no light. But it is what it is. You're on television. You're at March Madness that everyone watches. You get to host a show for America's pastime, and it still is. Like, you are that. And I'm sure there are little girls that are looking at Lauren Shehadi, and you're like, you bring that warmth, and it's like, that's what I want to do. I want to be just like her. I want to talk to all those cool dudes like Ryan and Judge and Jimmy and Pedro and Curtis and everyone else. Like, that's you, whether you want to believe it or not. That is you.
That's so kind of you to say. I hope that in some way I could, guide him in any way. I don't know. It's not lost on me that I'm able to do this. And, I always felt like when I would go to different steps, I would just try and be so kind. And that's like what you try to do, right? Treat everyone well. And maybe someday you'll get where you want to go. But gosh, that's really cool. That's a responsibility, and I don't take it lightly. That's cool. Thanks.
I love it.
So
I love the humidity. So now we're going to jump into our ritual part of the show.
Okay.
Oh, this is going to
So
be
this
interesting.
is-
I want to know this.
This is
Okay.
our banana boat ritual
I've got rituals.
segment of the show. So
Are you superstitious?
type of are you superstitious?
That look.
Are you
That look.
what's
I got
what's our
rituals,
ritual
friend.
game
Okay,
look
number
like?
one, my ritual before every show is Jimmy tries to mess me up every single time.
That's
They're
not
like,
a- that's
10
not a fair
that's
depiction
true,
of
that's
what's
fair. It's
happening.
10, 9, 8. Don't mess up, Lauren. Don't mess up, Lauren. Everyone's watching. Don't mess up. 10 million to the world. Red Sox Yankees. Postseason on GBS. I'm like, you get out of here. Then I always have my earpiece in my left ear, always. And we play, what do we play?
Time of game.
No, but what song do we play?
Oh, Gasolina. She has to have gas. Look,
Get it pumped up. I like it. I like it.
She's banging on the desk like what's going on? Where's my music?
Where's my music?
Yeah.
That's my ritual. Gets me fired up. If that doesn't make you in a good mood, then something's wrong with you.
Yeah, something is wrong. Something is wrong.
She gets going.
I love that.
She gets
I love
going.
that.
Now, Lauren, we know you give great interviews. You bring out the best. You know, you talked about how you throw it around to the analyst and you set up the player so he can answer a question that can be either the baseball player or their personality or basketball player or whomever you're interviewing. But everyone wants to redo sometimes here and there. You know, you give an answer like, I could have said that.
Are you
better.
talking about my David Price interview?
I mean, if you're throwing
you
it out
just-
there.
I tell him my insecurities.
If you're
and
throwing it out there, so my question is, I didn't throw names. I was going to say, was there an interview
this
that you
guy's
wish
unbelievable.
You just hit the redo button.
you could throw the ref, you could throw the flag, rewind that back, and do that again.
unbelievable.
Does that exist?
what- yeah.
Do you even have that moment?
Yeah. And I think about it still to this day. We're doing Red Sox Yankees postseason on TBS.
What year is this?
When did the Red Sox win? 17?
No, not 16.
No, Cubs were 16.
14,
13,
18, 13, 18.
13.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. David Price. I interviewed him after the game and I said, David, and I asked my first question. And his answer, he goes, I worked on something yesterday in the bullpen that led me to success today. What would your next question be?
What
What
was it?
was it?
You would think.
Stop.
You would think, Ryan Howard. First of all, I'm so nervous. I have my next question planned. It was probably about JD Martinez or something. I just, boom, go, JD Martinez, wait, what was it like? What? My producer's like, what? How could you? I think about that interview. You got to listen. At
Right.
the core of every interview, you have to listen. It's actually more difficult than you think because you just don't want dead air and you know.
Yeah.
But my gosh, you worked on something. It was the comeback of David Price and he was the story and I bombed it. But you live and you learn. I've now kind of had this kind of roadmap for interviews. I feel like asking a good question is tough. And I kind of live by a couple rules at the end of a game if you're doing a playoff series. So let's say there's a walk-off scenario. Ryan Howard hits a walk-off. I get Ryan Howard after the game. I never go back past the walk-off. You stay in that moment.
Right.
So you knock the donut off, Ryan, go to the plate. What are you trying to do? Did you think it was out? You described did you think it was out when you hit it? You rounded the bases, you pointed up in the stands. Who were you pointing at? I saw your manager tell you something. It's all in that moment. And then if you want the last question to be team-wise, but you never go back, hey, in the fourth inning, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because the walk-off matters. So that's kind of my blueprint for an interview. But my gosh, it's easier. I think it's easier. The really good girls and guys who do it at the end of the game who are, ask great questions. It's not as simple as you think.
Have you ever had somebody where they just gave you
Yes.
one word answers?
Yes, you got to ask a question.
Just one word answers. Just
You have to ask a question or they'll let you know. If you say, tell me about, they could say no. Open-ended, never leading. I'll give you an example. How great was it to hit that walk-off home run? There's nowhere for them to go. They either say it wasn't great or they give a generic answer. I remember I interviewed John Lester after a playoff game. He was hitting at the time. He hit. They did a pitching change before his at-bat. And I thought, he's tough with the media. I got to get this guy on my good side. And I said, is this the first time in your career there's a pitching change before your at-bat? You feared hit or you? And then he unlocked. You're trying to unlock them with your first question. And the leading question of how great were you or how cool is your teammate or that doesn't work.
Right.
There's nowhere for them to go. So it's more of a feel thing, but you live and you learn for sure.
I'm taking notes.
Hey.
Because it is
This
so
is a master
difficult.
class over here.
It really is because, as she said, especially on our desk, for example, you might be the fourth question asked.
So you don't know.
And it's like, oh my goodness. And the one is going to be on you and you're scrambling she took my question. He took my other question. He took my third question. And there's nowhere for you to go. And it is tough. And I like what you said. ask a question, because in the way you framed it, you're giving the player an opportunity to talk about the moment. As when you're leading, it's like, talk about yourself.
Right.
And we don't want to do that because it took a team to get to this moment.
Right.
So I've seen it happen where, you know, a player has been led and they just kind of look at the report. And I know I've done it. It's just like, okay, like, what do you want me to say? Like, what really are you getting at? Because I'm not about to talk about myself. You can ask me what happened in that moment. I can explain to you what I was feeling in that moment and go from there. But leading, as you just said, definitely, you know, puts a player in a weird position. That is for sure a masterclass. And man, Lauren, you surprised me. You really do. Not that you're a greatness, but as in, I didn't know I was going to interview you and be taught lessons while doing the interview. But I'm so glad that I am, because it's going to help me go further. And, you know, I'm still going to mess you up before we start the show. I'm going to mess with that. That's just what we do.
That's going to be a part of the routine.
That's
going to then be a part of your ritual.
It's like, banana boat ritual.
I need you to like talk trash, talk a little
She
trash.
needs me to get to just like a half a second before the show starts. So I'm trying to mess with her. And you know what? She literally puts on a blinder. She goes, "Rrr." She's like, Jimmy, step aside. And she gets right to it. I want to talk about March Madness.
Okay.
Because that is tough. You're going, you know, we know the big schools. You may know some of those players, but not all of them. But then you have these, you know, smaller schools, mid-majors, players you've never heard of. And the action is fast. It's on the fly.
Yes, it is.
How different is that? And how did you make that adjustment from what we do pre and post, talking about the game, to actually being in action, framing the right question? Because we have 15 seconds. It's a quick hit. We're out.
I'm a preparer, but it's impossible to prepare for because it's so fast. I have a notebook. I go into March Madness with 4 notebooks for the 4 games in the day. On the front, I have the team, the mascot, the coach, the conference. So, because sometimes you don't know, it's a smaller school. Inside I have, if you open it up, you have the pictures of the faces of the guys with their names under, so I can highlight them. So I'm looking, this guy's 24 points, 2 fouls. I'm constantly, because you're learning these guys literally while the country's watching, you know? And I have 4 stories, human interest stories per team, 8 per game. You're gonna get in one. You go in the huddle, you try and listen to the coach. He does not want you there. He does not, he's doing coach speak. You're like, I have no idea what that means. I have a few things that I do that try and set me up for success. Under 12, we have a coach interview. Sometimes nothing's happened, right? So I'm going up to John Calipari, nothing's happened. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this guy does not want to talk to me right now. In the practice the day before, I say, Coach, first 4 minutes, first 6 minutes, what's ideal you want to see? And he'll say, I want to match their physicality. So if I have nothing else, I write it down. If I have nothing else, if nothing's happened in the game, Coach, you told me yesterday you wanted to match their physicality. How do they look? Because you got to get in and get out.
Right.
So I'm like over preparing. And obviously I rarely use a question from the day before, but you just have to, you know, kind of get there, because it happens so fast. And then at the end of the game, the challenge is there's the whole team. You're interviewing the whole team. And before every interview, I look behind at their back to see the name. I do, because it's 8 teams. Got to make sure.
Right.
Rollins. Yep. Got it. You know what I mean? Because it's us, but it's the most beautiful day. I mean, one of the most beautiful days on the sports calendar, and it's a dream job. I'm an anxious preparer, so it gives me a little bit of, I'm nervous before that day starts.
Like, that's amazing. Just listening to the stories of all the preparation that takes place to be able to, I mean, really, like, you're doing this on the fly.
On the fly.
But even though you're doing it on the fly, you have a system for doing it on the fly.
Which I want to not fail.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which is absolutely amazing. So my question is so to like the young girls or women that are looking to try to break into the sports world and this world in general, what would be the biggest piece of advice that you would be able to give them?
Never worry about being a girl in a man's world. I get that question from every young girl I talk to. I said, don't worry about it. They'll respect you if you do the work. I walk in with Jimmy Rollins, Pedro Martinez, Ryan Howard, Curtis Granderson, some of the most accomplished people in our sport. And if they feel that I've put in the work to make them succeed, they'll value me, they'll respect me. It has happened my whole career. And I'm surrounded by the most wonderful men who want me to succeed. So get that out of your mind, that you're a girl and a guy. Get it out of your mind. You do the work, you belong there. Second would be don't try to prove you belong. Jimmy, you went 3 for 4 with a double on a gap. You really struggled against left-handed pitchers, but you No. You belong. You already got the job. Ask a question in six words.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you like about that high heater? You saw it last at bat. What'd you like? Quick. You don't have to prove you belong. You belong. And do your work. Do your homework. Be kind.
Mic drops.
I know,
But
right?
I'm not going to let there be any dead air, as Lauren would say. Lauren, are there any charitable initiatives that you're involved in that you would like to share with us?
You know, when I first went, my first job was in Minot, North Dakota. There's a kind of a story. I used to see the Dream Catchers. It was a Miracle League softball. And I used to see it on the TV. They used to have this show for Miracle League softball, kids with disabilities able to play the game. And when I got the job, and listen to this, I got a job in Minot, North Dakota. I landed. We were driving. My news director drove me around, and he said, that's where the Miracle League is. That's where the Dream Catchers play. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm meant to be here. Something, I had dreamt about that, helping kids play our game. You know, it's a game for all. And I got this job in a town that I'd never been in. And it was the origin and the homeland of dream catchers of this Miracle League softball and baseball league. I just feel really passionate that all kids should be able to play sports and be outside. And so I'm still involved in that. And it's just, you know what this game has given your guys' life. Yeah. And everyone should have that access to it, in my opinion.
Well, Lauren, I personally want to thank you for coming on today. Ryan and I understand your schedule. But I took a shot and asked. I'm like, Lauren doesn't do this, but she's in a good mood today.
Nervous,
she's in a good mood today. So Lauren, would you come on? And she said yes. See, I'm running because look, when we're on the set, You see that left hand? She's doing shots. I'm like, hey, come on, Lola.
Right.
But for real though, you know how much we admire you on the show. We've watched your work. You've interviewed us. You've covered us. So for us to be able to share this platform and let you share who you are with our audience and also with us, it means a lot. It means a lot.
Well, thank you to both of you. I really feel like the wonderful men in this sport have put me in a position to be able to do this, you know, without trust and respect and all that. Me and all my coworkers and all the girls who do this for a living, we wouldn't have access and we wouldn't, be able to do this. So it's just the way you guys are so good to us. You know, we love and share this love for this great game. So thank you guys, It's because of you we're all able to do this.
Well, there you have it.
There you have it.
My buddy, my friend, my homegirl, my colleague, Lauren Shehadi on the 611 podcast. To the Miss Lauren Shehadi.